Okay, well, I don't make too many live videos anymore. I just seem to be too busy working, but it's been an interesting week. And some things have to be said. I thought about maybe not saying anything at all. And then I thought about how to carefully align my conversation as to fight back against the authoritarianism of our society as best I know how. So I'm going to do that today because this week I have been visited by those who killed Kennedy. Uh, Now it's indirect, of course. I can't say it's perfectly literally, but it's more clandestine. Those who most are affected by the murders of Kennedy showed up and warned me not to say things like this. Here's people who worked with the Kennedy literally showed up. And this is why. Okay, here's a book by Kennedy's press secretary. And the people around Kennedy like to write books. They like to help other people write books. So here's Fletcher Nebel, Kennedy's press secretary, who stole Hugh's trademark, the Bottomline, the same trademark that was used in the lawyers' bar. So every lawyer in this country studies out of the Bottomline with their bar exams. So every lawyer in the country can't tell the truth or practice legally or try Hugh's case because they've stolen his trademark, and that's by design. And this goes back to the same people around Kennedy. So that's why I was approached by Kennedy's relatives who work in the Secret Service. And of course, I asked them just because I wondered if they would slip up and say who they really were, but they're trained well enough to reply quickly. Um, but it doesn't matter. They pulled the strings, did what was necessary to approach me and tell me that I can't say things like what I'm telling you right now. And this all happens right here close to the DuPont factory that was created on George Washington's land. As you saw my previous videos where George Washington's sword was given to Hugh's ancestor. Now, that's not coincidence because I don't know, you can almost see it from my house, but less than a quarter mile or so from my house is the DuPont factory uh, that was on the movie Dark Waters, which stars Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo also was the Incredible Hulk in the Avengers movies. Well, that DuPont built its factory not by coincidence on a place called Washington Bottom that was land owned by George Washington himself. Now, that was done intentionally because DuPont were the first ones who stole this trademark, the Bottomline, from Hugh. And so they own the they worked very meticulously to hide what they've done because it was their efforts that caused Hugh's trademark to be stolen, used around the world. They stole it, created the WWE. DuPont created the WWE. This is why you have books like this. Put that together with this book. Okay. So you have Foley here, right? Now, Hugh got his license at Foley Federal Court, and that's why you had the journalist Foley, who was beheaded uh, supposedly by terrorists. And that was done in a CIA studio. The pictures are out. Everybody knows this was done intentionally by the CIA. Okay, Foley was beheaded. Well, why did they do this? Because Hugh got his licenses, his trademark or his licenses for Bottomline at Foley Federal Court in New York with Morton Gould, Gould. So Foley here was put in the WWE, WWF originally, which was a stolen trademark, wasn't it? You see, the WWF stole its trademark WWF from the World Wildlife Foundation, just like it stole Bottomline. Okay, so this is not it's not pie in the sky. They fought a big lawsuit over this, and the WWF got their trademark back. Hugh never did. Okay, so they still have Bottomline events, but they can't call themselves the WWF anymore. They have to call themselves the WWE. But they market with Foley, okay, Triple H like Hugh, okay. So and think about who says, and that's the bottom line. Stone Cold Stephen Austin, or what's his real name? Anderson. Anderson being one of the rapists with Osbourne, who attacked Hugh and little children back in 1957. Uh, and they're the rapists and the torturers. They go all the way back. But here's the real truth of your country right here. Margaret Fuller, okay. Now, right there next to Rufus Putnam in the cemetery in Marietta is the Fuller family. There's two Fullers just, I don't know, probably 20 feet from Rufus Putnam. There's Fullers all through that cemetery, and they are relatives because Rufus Putnam his dad married Fuller. So they are the same Fuller family that are related to this Margaret Fuller, who was Edgar Allan Poe's literary critic, who is the ancestor of Buckminster Fuller, and there are Buckminsters near Fuller in the cemetery here. So you see the origin of the name already going. And that Buckminster Fuller is Hugh's uncle, or possibly great uncle, and a famous inventor. All in the same cemetery, all in the same place, close to the land, George Washington's land, not far from there, where DuPont built its factory on purpose, the same one that's in the movie today, starring Mark Ruffalo, Dark Waters. It's interesting how this all goes around. Now, the Fullers were famous inventors, authors, like Margaret Fuller Asali. She was Edgar Allan Poe's literary critic, right? So she was one of the first ones to bring a lot of horror genre to the world, okay, through Edgar Allan Poe, right? Well, around Hugh's life, there are multiple other horror genre authors. Not all of them can be named, but they've been seen at they've been seen at his family reunions when he was a child. So not only Edgar Allan Poe, but the names of his wives' children before he married them were used as characters in horror movies as well. And that goes back to Sarah Margaret Fuller Asali. Now, Hugh is also a genius intellect, just like his uncle Buckminster Fuller. He's an electrical engineer that built robots for assembly lines and has a special photographic memory, unlike anyone I've ever seen, and who could calculate large calculations in his head that is almost superhuman in the way that he does these things. So when he talks about his history and his family's history, there's one thing you know for sure, that's that he's not just making this up or something. He literally has the capacity to do the things that he says that he does. He's demonstrated that to me before. So I know he has that genius level intellect as well, and a photographic memory to remember the things that have happened to him since childhood. He can remember everything I say to him years after I say it, word for word. I don't know how he does that. I can't remember what I did an hour ago most of the time. So I want you to think for a second who attacked this country, okay? From its very beginning, you had Hessians, German Hessians attacked this country, attacked Washington, attacked Putnam. And to this day, German Hessians, if you will, those who worked with German Hessians, those who married through the Queen, married the Nazi Germans, didn't she? Saxe Coburn, she's not really who she says she is. She's actually German. They've attacked this country since its inception. That monarchy from England has attacked this country, and they still do. So even though you might say, well, you've got Germans who seem to have authority, who seem to have the power to control the narrative, keep in mind that the Germans attacked this country since its very inception. So those who are using Hugh's stolen trademark Bottomline to earn a living are the same people still attacking history to this day. And I'm beside myself on how history repeats itself. I was reading this book, a book from my bookshelf here about St. Augustine. And, he lived at a time when Constantine was converting Europe to his version of Christianity from paganism. That doctrine burned down the history that was before it. And likewise, today, history is being burned down, literally and metaphorically. With the Hessians who have attacked Rufus Putnam since the very beginning, since the Revolution, since the beginning of this country, and since the beginning of Marietta. This is the sort of reality that we're up against when Kennedy's family comes to visit the area to control the narrative. I find it interesting that they work with the same family. The Kennedys work with the same families that run and work in both political parties, such as Mills. Mills runs the colleges in this area, incidentally. Not incidentally, but incidentally we'll say. But Mills also was elected Democrat in Maine and Republican in Florida. So the same people who write your textbooks and runs your colleges also work in both political parties, from the top of the country to the bottom of the country. They run both sides. They have full authority, full control over the narrative of what you are supposed to be allowed to know and understand as an American. That's the Matrix box. So you've seen the movie The Matrix. Well, that's the Matrix that they've created. So you might be on one side or the other and think you're the enlightened one, and the other side is the fool. When in fact, Mills runs both sides. Mills is in the Democrats. Mills is in the Republicans. Mills runs your colleges. I even tried to talk to somebody named Mills about a whole separate story that has nothing to do with this. Very related to his story that he was presenting on the internet. But no, they control the narrative, and their family, you might want to say they're the ultimate Karens of society. I mean, they will tell whoever they need to tell, to make sure that nothing real ever goes out into the world and out of the Matrix box. You're only allowed to know the dynamics of the Matrix itself. You're not allowed to know any sort of reality in this country. It's interesting that all of our textbooks are printed. Most of our textbooks are printed by the Queen's family. The same Hessians, the same people that attacked this country from the very beginning. When you see something like the British invasion in rock and roll, that's not metaphor. The British invasion is an actual invasion because they came and the Queen used her knights, her gay, mostly gay knights, to come and attack this country, taking massive amounts of wealth back to England. Uh, and that's all the Queen and the Germans have ever done to this country is have attacked it from its inception. Remember, King George III hired Hessians, didn't he? Remember the Queen's family married Nazi. The Queen was married to a Nazi guard. Okay, because she's a German family. Why is she closer to Hitler? I know she's dead now, but why is her family closer to Hitler than she is to the Americans that she comes over and runs? Because to us, we are her subjects in her mind, still to this day. In the monarchy's mind, they didn't just give up in 1776 and just say, okay, you can go. No, they burned down the White House in 1812. Then the same gay Brits run the Proud Boys, who also attacked the White House on January 6th. They're still at it. The very first people who broke the first windows on the January 6th riot at the Capitol were the Proud Boys run by Brits, who are very close to friends or close friends with more gay British people claiming, like Milo Yiannopoulos, claiming to be conservative. You understand? All they're doing is running both sides of the narrative, and they've been playing this game against you for hundreds of years. The same Germans, the same Brits, the same gay knights have been attacking this country for 200 years. Now, this is not meant to be an attack on homosexuality itself. Obviously, I'm not a big fan, but that's not what this is meant to do. People mind their own business, go do their own thing. I really don't give a rip what people do. And I think the vast majority of Americans feel the same way. They just let people do what they want to do. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the gays that were knighted by the Queen specifically to attack this country. And, that's what Elton John is all about, for example. So, and this is why you have Elon Musk. Think about that name, Elon Musk. Okay. The bottom line has an L in it, right? Like the L, the line, L. Okay, where's the book here? So it's the bottom line, the L, right? So here's the bottom line of the line starts with L, right? Okay, this is the book. This is Kennedy's press secretary who stole Hugh's trademark to make a fiction book. This book right here. Oh, and it was written. The foreword in the inside was written by Nagy. Okay, who's related to Iacocca that Hugh knew. Okay. Anyway, and ran Nagy Cement right down the road from where he lived, from where Hugh lived. And I lost track when I started talking about that. Oh, the L. So Elon Musk and Elton John. These are homosexual themes intentionally put out by the Queen and her family and the Brits. You say, well, Elton. You say Elon Musk is technically South African. Okay, well, what is that? German and British, right? I mean, just think a little bit deeper. Okay, so. And the way that this homosexual reference works is you have L, the line, on Musk. Now, you say, well, how could that be related to Hugh? Well, very simple, because Elon's mother, Mae Musk, took over as the cover girl on Maybelline for Hugh's wife's sister. Okay? Sandy, who had been on the cover for a long time. That's the source. CoverGirl and Maybelline products is the source. Maybe line. There's the line right here. Okay, so that is where Elon, technically, why you got that name L. And what is Musk? Musk is like the smell of a man, right? Musk is a man smell. So you have L on Musk as they stole Hugh's wealth, just like the Kennedy family here stole, and the Fletcher Neville, who's working for the Kennedys, stole the trademark bottom line. So that's L on Musk. Elton John, a gay knight from Britain. L again, like L on, L, just ignore the T. L on, Elton. Okay. John. What's a John? Uh, multiple uh, ways to say that. You could say it's a toilet. So he's L on a John. Or, somebody that's getting a hooker or something like that is a John, right? But he's a gay knight, and this is what they do through history. The queen has thousands of years of experience, not just the queen, but her family has thousands of years of experience on how to infiltrate and manipulate the narrative. And they're good at it. So they they print your textbooks that are in your public schools, Macmillan and all those. These are Brits. This is why you have a matrix. Your history that you think you know is true is only partially true. It doesn't mean that every last thing in it's wrong. Okay. Yeah, George Washington really fought at Bunker Hill. But are you ever going to read about the part where Putnam's father married the Fullers? Again, the Fullers, right here in the cemetery, okay, who were Edgar Allan Poe's literary critics, who were the ancestors of Buckminster Fuller, who was a genius inventor and the uncle of Hugh. You see? No, you won't hear that part because that's the part that they've taken over. That's the part that they've attacked and stolen from to create their wealth. So you're never going to hear that in the textbook, ever. You won't hear that. And this is the trap. They'll tell you, well, you have to become established in order to present these ideas. And they're very clandestine fashion as they tell you that you must fight, or you must not present. I'm sorry, you must not present your truth about Hugh Squier. You can't tell that truth. Why? Why did they tell me that? Because that's where they've got their money. Every lawyer in the country, and I was attacked by a lawyer with the Kennedys this week, who studied out of the stolen trademark bottom line, which is used for the bottom line bar exams that every lawyer in the country has to study out of to become a lawyer. So I'm attacked by Kennedy's family, and I'm attacked by lawyers, and that's how they make their money. They make their money through theft. So let's see, what else do we have here? There's Cotton Mather right here. So we were talking about Sarah Osgood Fuller, right? And Sarah Margaret Fuller. And Sarah Margaret Fuller was Poe's literary critic. Well, and she's also related to other horror authors' families. And many of the names of the characters in many horror movies come from Hugh's family as well. Right across the street from Fuller and from Putnam is this guy, Cotton Mather's descendant. And it says so right there on the sign. So I'm not pulling this out of my butt or anything. Right there on the sign is the house of a man related to Cotton Mather. Well, who is Cotton Mather? He was the judge at the Salem witch trials. We also have in Marietta, we have the home of the descendant of Israel Putnam. And Putnam's ancestors were Ann Putnam at the Salem witch trials. All right. So right across the street from where Putnam is buried is Cotton Mather's family. So you have the Salem witch trials. Remember, all these people who started Marietta came from Boston, Massachusetts. 47 of them came right after. And I was told that this was not true. But you look it up in history and you tell me if this is true. Is there such a date called the 4th of July, the 7th month? Is that a true statement? Yes, it is. Did our uh, did George Washington meet at the Bunch of Grapes Tavern, which is the same place where the 47th Regiment of Foot used to meet on the same year that the Declaration of Independence was declared on the 4th of July? All true statements. There's nobody on earth who can deny that these are true statements. Now, is this not a true statement? Did 47 men who were veterans of the Revolution not come on their little boat down the river that they called the Mayflower and found Marietta on April 7th, 4-7? Is that not historical fact? I was told to my face that those are not true statements during an attack this week. So as Kennedy's family came to assure the narrative and make sure that I didn't tell you what I'm telling you right now, I'm going to tell you anyway because it's true. And not maybe. There's a whole lot of history behind it. While I'm being told by people who fought against my country, who burned down history, whose Hessian ancestors fought this country, who stole Hugh's trademark, that these basic principles that I just said about 47 somehow are not true. And yet I can prove it ad nauseum, and anybody can. You could Google that or Wikipedia that. That's just common knowledge. None of that's false. Do not the Masons put on their aprons just like George Washington's apron had, or not his apron, but the Masons do? It was not actually on his apron, but there are aprons that have it. But did not George Washington's Masonic apron sit right beside a sign that says the 47th problem of Euclid? Is that a lie? If that's a lie, then I hope somebody tells me that they can prove that that's not the 47th problem of Euclid. But I'm pretty sure I can prove otherwise. See, I don't make just these false statements. I tell you the truth. Because I'm in a pivotal place where the history of this country is largely determined, which is why you have Kennedy's family down here in the first place controlling the narrative and attacking me and saying that I can't tell the truth. So we have the Salem witch trials right here in this area too. Big history, and that's related to Fuller. It's interesting. I want to show you one more thing. This is a little movie. Citizen 4. Who are they calling Citizen 4, and what's that number 4 about? Okay. Now, and it's been a while since I have watched this, but this is about Edward Snowden, okay? And they call him Citizen 4. They use that number 4 because if you'll watch the news, you'll notice that virtually 100 times a day it doesn't matter whether you watch the conservative news or the liberal news, read the newspaper, it doesn't matter where you get your sources, you'll find 100 times a day. 4 people killed here, 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 4 raped, 4 crashed in an airplane. They repeat those stories with the number 4. Sometimes it's 44 too. And that's done on purpose. That number 4 has some meaning to them. But it's when Hugh was raped by the same family, Osbourne, who killed Kennedy. No, they set up Oswald. Okay, books like this They're not entirely fake. I mean, Oswald did not kill Kennedy, but who set him up? The same people that did kill Kennedy, and that's Osbourne. Mac Osbourne was with Oswald in the military. Citizen 4, this is not really a reference to Edward Snowden. Whenever you see that number 4, this is talking really about Hugh. That's their clandestine way of talking about Hugh Squier, who was raped at 4 by the same people, the same family, Osbourne, that killed Kennedy. And this is why Hugh's truth can't come out. How am I supposed to go and overcome Mills, who runs the colleges, to get a degree so that I can get the official narrative at the state level changed, when all of those people make all of their money fighting and hiding and stamping out these truths for hundreds of years now? And all their funding comes from overseas, and those who stole the trademarks, those who took over Washington's land. They have a 200-year head start. So here's how it works. I take a little match of Hugh's flame, okay? He's telling the truth. He's telling the world the real story of what really happened to Kennedy, what really happened to those little kids in Michigan, what really happened to his wives. I'm just taking that little flame, and in this very, very, very dark world, I am going to shine it. And that little light's going to spread. It's already spread in the darkness. Trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me. That little bit of flame is going to eventually enlighten the earth. Americans are blind to it, but it's already enlightened much of the earth. I can talk to Muslims, and Muslims get this story because they're not brainwashed by either the Democrats or the Republicans. They're not brainwashed by the Queen. I can tell Muslims the story, and they get it. Yeah, they say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And this is why the premier of Kuwait offered Hugh a radio station and said, here, you can come over and TV station, you can come over and tell your story as much as you want. He says, no, my battle is in America. This is where my ancestors fought to establish this country. I'm going to fight it out right here and convince my blind, ignorant, brainwashed countrymen in America of the truth of what's really happened to them. And if they don't accept it, they don't accept it. But the dead speak. Fuller speaks from the grave. Putnam speaks from the grave. Washington speaks from the grave. His land over here with DuPont on it. I wouldn't be shocked if they get rid of the DuPont, because they destroy things that suddenly bring attention to their fake narrative. But they've been using that DuPont for a very long time to make movies. Okay, they poison the entire earth with C8. DuPont has, at the end of that movie, they literally said that DuPont has put Teflon in 98% of all human flesh on the planet, supposing that statistic for the movie is true. Imagine doing that and then making the movie. So they work together with the Hollywood producers too, and they profit no matter what. So they control the narrative, poison you, and then make a movie off of it, make even more money. That's the reality of how this Matrix thing works. Right there on George Washington's land, on Washington Bottom, where DuPont put its factory here. It's not a coincidence. Those are the people who initially stole Bottomline. It was DuPont thoroughbred horses that Jacqueline Kennedy fell from when she died as well. She died from the injuries from falling off of DuPont thoroughbred horses. With Mills. Oh, what a coincidence. So this is the truth of your country. It's deep. There's a lot to it. It's not easy to understand, especially when you've been living in a matrix. It's really hard to find your way through it and try to find those little nuggets of truth that you can hold on to and build a structure to rewrite everything that you've been taught. But try to remember that your very textbooks, everything you've been told, has been printed by your nation's enemies. And be willing to throw it all out so that you can light the lamp of freedom again and bring back reality to America. Thanks for watching.